Calcium is the backbone of movement, giving bones their strength and enabling muscles to contract with every step you take. In this video, you'll see exactly how calcium works in bones and muscles, how much you really need from both dairy and dairy-free sources, and how vitamins D and K team up to make every bite count. You'll also get practical, plain-spoken guidance you can use today. Calcium's role is simple and essential. It hardens bones to prevent breaks, and it helps muscles squeeze, nerves fire, and enzymes run smoothly. When you eat calcium-rich foods, your bones stay strong, and your muscles respond quickly to what your brain asks them to do. Dairy versus dairy-free sources with real portions. Dairy milk delivers about 300 milligrams per cup. Yogurt runs roughly 350 to 450 milligrams per cup. Cheese about 200 milligrams per ounce. Dairy-free options, if fortified, land in a similar range. Fortified almond or soy milk around 300 to 450 milligrams per cup. Calcium-set tofu about 200 to 300 milligrams per half cup. Collard greens cooked roughly 270 milligrams per cup. Kale about 180 milligrams per cup. And white beans around 160 milligrams per cup. Note that spinach contains calcium, but absorption is limited by oxalates, so mix it with other sources. Vitamin D and K work with calcium. Vitamin D boosts absorption in your gut, while vitamin K helps deposit calcium into bone. Aim for about 600 to 800 IU of vitamin D daily, more if your doctor recommends it, and keep leafy greens in your day for vitamin K. Total calcium from all foods generally targets about 200 mg daily for many adults, but don't exceed about 500 mg per day from all sources unless a clinician says otherwise. Absorption boosters and blockers. Oxalates in some greens and phytates in certain grains can dampen absorption. Caffeine and high-sodium meals can increase calcium loss. Take calcium with meals, and if you're also taking iron pills, try to space them a couple hours apart. Kid and senior-friendly plate ideas. For kids, a yogurt parfait layered with berries and a sprinkle of crushed nuts. A cheese and veggie snack plate with a fortified plant milk smoothie works too. For seniors, try a tofu and kale stir-fry with sesame. Serve alongside calcium-fortified plant milk or yogurt, making a soft, easy-to-chew, calcium-rich plate. Why calcium really matters. Calcium is the mineral that bones are built from, and it also helps muscles contract and nerves transmit signals. Bones continually remodel, releasing calcium into the bloodstream when needed and rebuilding mineral structure as you age. Having enough calcium supports bone density and helps the body perform essential tasks like muscle contraction and heart rhythm. When intake is chronically low, bones can become weaker and fracture more easily. Calcium also plays a role in signaling processes inside cells, which matters for how muscles respond during activity and how nerves carry messages. Dairy foods concentrate calcium, and they're among the most reliable sources. Milk in a cup provides around 300 milligrams. Yogurt in a cup tends to range from 250 to 400 milligrams, depending on the style. Cheese provides roughly 200 milligrams per ounce. Dairy-free options can match these amounts when they are fortified. Fortified plant milks typically offer about 250 to 350 milligrams per cup. Fortified orange juice around 300 milligrams per cup. Calcium-set tofu can provide roughly 250 to 300 milligrams per half cup, depending on the brand. Leafy greens add calcium too, with collard greens cooked around 270 milligrams per cup and kale cooked about 180 milligrams per cup. But spinach, while high in calcium, is less bioavailable due to oxalates. Beans, nuts, and grains contribute as well, though absorption varies by food and preparation. Vitamin D and vitamin K work with calcium to maximize its bone benefits. Vitamin D improves calcium absorption in the gut, and many people meet part of their needs through sunlight, fatty fish, fortified foods, and supplements if necessary. Vitamin K, too, helps activate osteocalcin, a protein that helps bind calcium into bone rather than letting it accumulate in soft tissues. The typical guidance for adults is around 10 mg of calcium daily, with higher needs for older adults who may approach about 200 mg. The tolerable upper intake level for calcium from all sources is commonly cited around 500 mg per day, which is why it's wise to consider total intake from diet plus supplements. If you have kidney issues, a history of stones, or certain metabolic conditions, talk with a clinician before boosting supplements. Certain foods and habits can limit how well calcium is absorbed. Oxalates in spinach and some other greens can bind calcium and reduce uptake, as can phytates in some whole grains and legumes. Caffeine and high-sodium diets may modestly increase calcium loss in urine, especially if intake is high and meals are irregular. Iron supplements or meals taken very close to calcium can compete for absorption, so many people find it helpful to separate large doses of iron from calcium-rich meals. To maximize absorption, pair calcium-rich foods with vitamin D sources, spread intake across meals, and consider calcium citrate or carbonate supplements only if dietary sources fall short and after a quick chat with a healthcare provider. Kid-friendly ideas include a yogurt parfait with fortified yogurt and berries, or a smoothie built on fortified plant milk with a banana and a handful of spinach for color. A quick cheese and fruit plate with whole grain crackers works, as does fortified cereal with a splash of milk. For seniors, easy options include yogurt with diced fruit and a sprinkle of almonds, warm soups enriched with fortified milk, broccoli and cheddar bake, or canned salmon with bones mashed through on whole grain toast. These choices help keep calcium intake practical, tasty, and sustainable for daily life. Top dairy and dairy-free picks. Calcium is the mineral that gives bones their strength and also supports muscle contractions. It serves as the body's main mineral bank, ready to be deposited in bone or released to help nerves and muscles function. Most adults aim for about 10 mg of calcium daily, with higher targets of around 200 mg for many older adults. Spreading intake across meals improves absorption and reduces the chance of stomach upset. Calcium works best when paired with vitamin D, and it benefits from vitamin K2 to guide mineral deposition in bone. Top dairy picks include milk, yogurt, and cheese, which provide reliable calcium per serving. 1 cup of cow's milk delivers about 300 milligrams of calcium. Plain yogurt typically carries roughly 300 to 400 milligrams per cup, depending on fat level and strain. An ounce of cheddar is around 200 milligrams, while an ounce of Parmesan tops about 330 milligrams. Portion thoughtfully, 1 cup of milk or yogurt and 1 to 2 ounces of cheese daily can fit into many dietary plans and still leave room for other nutrients. Dairy-free options can match dairy in calcium density when fortified and paired with a varied diet. Fortified plant milks usually deliver about 300 milligrams per cup. Fortified orange juice can be around 300 milligrams per cup. Calcium-set tofu, made with calcium sulfate, often contains roughly 200 to 250 milligrams per half cup. Canned sardines with bones provide about 325 milligrams per 3-ounce serving, and salmon with bones offers roughly 180 to 250 milligrams per 3-ounce serving. Leafy greens vary. Kale and collard greens are fairly calcium-rich, while spinach has calcium but oxalates limit absorption. Sesame seeds and tahini are handy add-ins, providing about 64 mg per tablespoon and 128 milligrams per 2 tablespoon serving respectively. Calcium-fortified cereals also broaden options, especially for kids and plant-based diets. Vitamin D and vitamin K work with calcium to build and maintain bone, and they affect how well calcium is absorbed and directed into bone tissue. Vitamin D helps the gut absorb calcium, while vitamin K2 helps move calcium in a bone rather than soft tissues. Safe limits matter. The tolerable upper intake level for calcium from all sources is about 500 mg per day for adults up to age 50 and about 20 mg per day for adults older than 50. Absorption blockers include oxalates in spinach and other greens, phytates in some grains and beans, caffeine, and excessive salt. To maximize absorption, spread calcium intake across meals, choose fortified options, and, if needed, consult a clinician about supplements rather than guessing doses. For kids and seniors, practical plates help reinforce calcium intake without fuss. Kid-friendly options include yogurt parfaits with fruit and a sprinkle of fortified cereal, milk or fortified plant milk smoothies, and small cheese slices with whole grain crackers. For seniors, consider sardines on whole grain toast, tofu stir-fries with leafy greens, kale or collard greens with beans, and fortified milk or yogurt alongside a simple salmon and vegetable plate. Vitamin D and K helpers. Calcium plays a central role in building and keeping bones strong. It also supports muscle contraction and nerve signaling. Most calcium in the body sits in bone mineral as a scaffolding that gives bones their structure. Calcium turnover is ongoing, so bones continuously gain and lose mineral as you age. Vitamin D and vitamin K are key helpers to make sure calcium is used well. Vitamin D boosts calcium absorption from the gut. Vitamin K activates proteins that lock calcium into bone tissue. Without enough vitamin D or K, calcium may be less effective for bone formation and may accumulate elsewhere in the body. Dairy sources deliver straightforward calcium, with about 300 milligrams per cup of plain milk and roughly the same in a cup of yogurt. Cheese is calcium-dense, around 200 milligrams per 1 ounce slice, but portions can add up quickly. Dairy-free options that are fortified usually provide similar amounts per serving. For example, fortified plant milks commonly offer about 300 milligrams of calcium per cup. Calcium-set tofu can supply roughly 250 to 300 milligrams per 3-4 ounces. Leafy greens vary a lot. Collard greens cooked around 250 to 270 milligrams per cup, kale about 180 milligrams per cooked cup, while spinach contains more calcium by volume but is limited by oxalates that reduce absorption. Legumes, such as white beans, can contribute around 100 mg per half cup. Fortified cereals and some seeds or sesame-based spreads add calcium too, but their amounts depend on the brand and preparation. In general, fortified dairy alternatives are designed to be comparable to dairy on a calcium for portion basis, so looking at the label helps compare. Vitamin D and vitamin K work with calcium in distinct but complementary ways. Vitamin D makes calcium easier to absorb through the intestinal lining and helps deliver it to where it's needed. Vitamin K activates osteocalcin and other bone proteins, so calcium actually binds into the bone matrix rather than remaining in soft tissues or being excreted. Vitamin K2, menaquinone, is often highlighted for bone and arterial health, and it appears particularly helpful when calcium intake is higher. Safe limits and considerations. The adult tolerable upper intake level for vitamin D is commonly cited as 4.0 IU per day. Sustained higher intakes should be discussed with a clinician. There is no established upper limit for vitamin K in healthy adults, though people on warfarin or other anticoagulants should keep vitamin K consistent and consult a clinician. For calcium, aim to meet your daily needs through a mix of foods and supplements if needed, and avoid consistently exceeding about 500 mg per day from all sources to reduce kidney stone risk and calcification concerns. Pair calcium-rich foods with some fat in meals to help fat-soluble vitamins like D and K be absorbed more efficiently. Certain dietary components can block calcium absorption. Phytates in some whole grains and legumes and oxalates in raw spinach can reduce how much calcium you absorb. Caffeine and high sodium intake can slightly increase calcium loss in urine. Plan meals so the calcium you eat is accompanied by vitamin D and a bit of healthy fat, and try to space calcium intake away from large amounts of tannins in tea or coffee close to a calcium-rich meal when possible. For kids and seniors, practical plate ideas help translate these concepts into real meals. For kids, a yogurt parfait with berries and fortified granola provides calcium plus vitamin D from fortified dairy or plant milk, and a cheese stick with apple slices adds a familiar, kid-friendly texture and taste. A fortified plant milk smoothie with kale or collards can deliver calcium and vitamin D in a palatable form. For seniors, a creamy yogurt or fortified soy yogurt with peaches, a small portion of calcium-set tofu scrambled with broccoli, or a sardine-topped toast on soft whole grain bread can be easy to chew and gentle on the palate while still delivering calcium with vitamin D and K support. A simple bowl of white beans with chopped greens, and a drizzle of olive oil also makes a nutrient-dense option. What blocks absorption? Calcium absorption is influenced by a range of dietary compounds and patterns, not just the amount you eat. Some foods bind calcium in the gut, so it can't be absorbed as well. Oxalates are the main blockers here, and they bind calcium to form insoluble compounds. Spinach, beet greens, Swiss chard, and rhubarb are classic sources to watch. Cooking can reduce oxalate levels somewhat, but it doesn't remove them completely. If you're aiming to maximize calcium uptake, pairing these greens with calcium-rich foods that have lower oxalate content can help. Phytates present in whole grains, seeds, legumes, and some nuts are another major blocker. They bind minerals, including calcium, and can limit how much you absorb. Soaking, fermenting, or sprouting grains and beans lowers phytate levels, and choosing calcium sources with fewer phytates can improve uptake. In practice, a meal that balances a phytate-rich component with a calcium-dense option tends to work better than one heavy on phytates alone. Minerals that compete for absorption can also affect calcium uptake. Iron, zinc, and magnesium, when consumed in high amounts at the same time, can reduce calcium absorption. That's why spacing calcium-rich foods or supplements apart from large iron or zinc supplements by a few hours is often recommended. Food acidity and timing matter too. Calcium carbonate tends to need a bit more stomach acid for best absorption, so taking it with or after a meal is generally wise. Other everyday blockers include caffeine and tannins from tea and coffee, which can diminish calcium uptake when consumed around meals rich in calcium. A high-sodium diet increases calcium excretion in urine, lowering net retention. Very heavy alcohol intake can disrupt calcium balance as well. And while dietary fiber is mostly beneficial for health, very high intakes of certain fiber sources can bind minerals and slightly reduce absorption in some people. The big picture is to tune patterns rather than chase perfection. Moderate caffeine after meals, limit ultra-processed sodium, and keep a balance of minerals across the day. Mitigation and synergy matter too. Vitamin D substantially boosts calcium absorption in the gut, so adequate vitamin D status makes blockers less impactful. Vitamin K supports bone mineralization by helping calcium integrate into bone tissue. In practical terms, a usual vitamin D intake within recommended ranges plus modest vitamin K from leafy greens complements calcium intake without turning blockers into a problem. If you're using supplements, avoid taking very high doses of iron or zinc at the same time as calcium. Space them by a few hours. For adults, a reasonable upper limit is often cited for vitamin D around 4,000 IU daily, while vitamin K intake from a normal diet is typically safe, though those on blood thinners should coordinate with a clinician. Kids and seniors can still enjoy plates that minimize blockers while staying tasty. A kid-friendly idea could be a smoothie with calcium-fortified plant milk, a dollop of yogurt, and a handful of berries. Add a side of fortified cereal to boost calcium without piling on oxalates. For dairy-free versions, use fortified plant milks and yogurts and pair them with soft fruits and protein-rich toppings like almond butter or chia. A senior-friendly plate might feature soft tofu or canned fish with bones, steamed kale or bok choy, cooked to tenderness, and a small serving of fortified whole grain bread. Include a vitamin D source like fortified milk or sunlight exposure when safe, and finish with a fruit cup for fiber. These ideas aim to keep calcium available for bones while keeping blockers in check through smart pairing and timing. Bone-strong meal ideas. Calcium provides the mineral backbone that bones rely on, and it helps muscles contract by supporting signaling within muscle cells. Strong bones are built when calcium is deposited into the mineral matrix and maintained through adulthood. Adequate calcium intake also supports nerve function and blood clotting, but the bone stores are what most people are aiming to protect. The amount you need depends on age and life stage, with about 1,000 milligrams daily for most adults and around 1,200 milligrams for many older adults. Consuming calcium across meals improves absorption and helps keep levels steady between meals. Dairy foods are among the most calcium-dense foods. 1 cup of cow's milk provides roughly 300 milligrams of calcium, and a cup of plain yogurt tends to offer about the same order of magnitude. though yogurt can vary by fat level and brand. Cheese is concentrated, with an ounce of cheddar typically delivering around 200 milligrams. Fortified dairy-free options close the gap. Fortified plant milks often advertise about 300 milligrams per cup, and calcium-set tofu can range from 200 to 300 milligrams per half cup, depending on processing. Leafy greens like kale provide calcium too, but absorption is better from cooked kale, around 150 milligrams per cup, than raw spinach, where oxalates reduce how much calcium your body takes in. Canned fish with bones, such as sardines or salmon, can supply 100-300 mg per serving, with sardines closer to the higher end for about 3 ounces. For bone health, vitamin D and vitamin K2 work with calcium. Vitamin D improves calcium absorption in the gut, and many adults achieve this through sunlight, foods, or supplementation when needed. Vitamin K2 helps attach calcium to the bone matrix, and it may help keep calcium out of arteries. The general advice is around 600 to 800 IU of vitamin D daily for adults and 90-120 mg of vitamin K per day, though individual needs vary. The safe upper limit for total calcium intake is about 2,500 milligrams per day for adults, a guardrail to avoid kidney stones or mineral imbalance when supplements are used. Absorption can be blocked by certain compounds, oxalates in spinach and beet greens, phytic acid in high-fiber seeds and whole grains, tannins in some teas, and caffeine or very high-sodium meals that increase calcium excretion. Balancing calcium with meals that include vitamin D and K2 helps, rather than taking large, isolated doses. Kid and senior-friendly plate ideas help translate these facts into everyday meals. For kids, try yogurt parfait with fortified yogurt, berries, and a sprinkle of calcium-fortified granola, or a cheese and bean quesadilla with broccoli florets on the side. A fortified plant milk smoothie with kale or spinach makes a tasty breakfast that hides greens in plain sight, and canned salmon on whole grain toast with cucumber slices offers a bright lunch option. For seniors, soft textures help while still delivering calcium. Cottage cheese with pineapple, scrambled eggs folded with cheddar and mushrooms, and creamy tofu miso soup with leafy greens. Easy-to-chew options like calcium-fortified cereals with warm milk or fortified orange juice can be built into daily routines. The key is to pair calcium-rich foods with a little fat or vitamin D. Choose a mix of dairy and fortified alternatives, and watch portions to stay within individual needs. That's a wrap on calcium and how to keep bones strong. Calcium is the mineral bones are built from, and it also helps your muscles contract and nerves fire properly. When you hit your daily calcium target, your bones stay dense and your muscles stay ready for action. Dairy versus dairy-free sources with friendly portions. A cup of cow's milk gives about 300 milligrams of calcium, and a typical cup of yogurt lands in roughly the same ballpark, often 300 to 400 milligrams. Cheese is dense too. About 1.5 ounces can give around 300 milligrams. Fortified dairy-free milks, like almond or soy milk, usually provide about 300 milligrams per cup. Calcium in other foods varies. Tofu prepared with calcium sulfate can offer roughly 200 to 350 milligrams per half cup. Canned sardines with bones provide about 300 milligrams per 3 ounces. Cooked greens shine as well. Collard greens around 200 to 260 milligrams per cup. Kale about 180 to 200 milligrams per cup. Beans, nuts, and seeds add up too. White beans roughly 150 milligrams per cup, almonds about 70, 80 mg per ounce, and sesame seeds can contribute a solid chunk when sprinkled on dishes. A well-planned day can blend dairy and dairy-free options to reach your target. Vitamin D and vitamin K work with calcium to keep bones strong. Vitamin D helps you absorb calcium from food, while vitamin K helps lock calcium into the bone matrix. Get vitamin D from sunlight, fortified foods, or fatty fish and eggs as you like, and nibble on leafy greens, broccoli, and fermented foods for vitamin K. Keep an eye on total intake to stay within safe ranges, and talk to a clinician if you're considering supplements. A quick note on absorption blockers. Oxalates in some greens like spinach and phytates in some grains and seeds can tie up calcium, making less available for your body. Caffeine, very high sodium, and excessive alcohol can also interfere with calcium balance. Pair calcium-rich foods with vitamin D-rich foods and eat a balanced plate to maximize absorption. Kid and senior-friendly plate ideas. For kids, try yogurt parfaits with berries and a sprinkle of granola, cheese sticks with apple slices, or fortified cereal with milk. For seniors, assemble sardines or tofu with sautéed kale on whole grain toast, a calcium-fortified plant milk smoothie with fruit, or a hearty bean and veggie soup with a side of yogurt. Direct summary. Aim for a mix of dairy and fortified non-dairy sources to reach about 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams per day. Adjust by age. Boost absorption with vitamin D and K-rich foods. Watch out for blockers, and keep portions reasonable to stay within safe limits. If you're unsure about supplements, check in with a professional. If this helped, hit like, subscribe, and share with someone who's building strong bones. First, I'd love to hear your favorite calcium-rich foods in the comments. In the next video, first we'll dive into vitamin D and bone health, and how sunlight and food work together, plus quick, bone-friendly snack ideas. Stay tuned for more tips to keep every generation moving with strength,